Hey, what's up, guys? I did Chapter 4, Does the Body Tell? Biological Characteristics and Criminal Disposition. In this chapter, they talk a lot about the prefrontal cortex and how it has the ability to mediate genetic influence on criminal disposition. Deficits in this prefrontal cortex may reduce your executive functions, which have the ability to plan and the ability to reflect on your own actions. So, if you have a problem with that area, it could cause you to not even care about the actions you've done, such as like you commit murder, you won't even care and you won't even like know you did it. So, hopefully, you don't have that problem. And anyway, having impaired functions in this area imply impulsive and disorganized behavior. It makes you focus primarily on the present and not on your future. So you're only thinking about what you're doing at that moment, and you're not even going to care about the consequences of your future actions. So that's a big problem. There have been tests done on these functions, and it allows us to tell whether a person is a psychopath and control individual. There also have done other tests on testosterone levels, which they tell you whether it increases or decreases crime. Studies show that lower class men who are unmarried and have a poor work history have higher testosterone levels than men in upper class with low levels of testosterone levels. And lower class men with high testosterone levels are more likely to be a delinquent and have a double chance of crime. In the next part in the chapter, they talk about your serotonin levels and the relationship to crime. For those of you that know what serotonin is, it's the chemical involved in neurotransmission of your brain. It's that little gap between the sending and relay of sending and receiving signals in your brain. Apparently, I had to read this to find that out. But anyway, it can't be measured directly without risk to injuring your brain. So they don't do any tests like that. Where obviously you can't do a test on somebody that's going to injure their brain. So what they use instead is two other measures. Other measurements. They use your spinal fluid and your blood platelets. And it shows that spinal fluid levels are lower in violent crimes, and males with higher levels of platelet crimes have a higher chance of violence. These two measures and serotonin levels have opposite relations and relationships to behavior disorders. Another test done biologically is your heart rate level, and it shows that a low resting heart rate is associated with a greater risk of crime. But this is a bad study because they've done tests on people that they've watched from when they were kids until they're adults who've had low resting heartbeats their entire lifetime before committing any criminal acts. So that proves that it's a bad theory already. Like most of these theories that we've read, all of these theories can't be proved by anything. They're so vague and terrible. And another test done that they use and with biology is skin conductance. It's used in recording how much your fingers sweat. It's kind of weird, but I guess it works. The tests that they conduct are used with different conditions and settings. They use loud noise and speech as one of the testing factors, and exact reasons cannot be determined whether they're going to be a success or a failure. The tests done are they use the test itself is electrical resistance across two wires attached to two of your fingers, and the factor in the test could be caused by a lower state of your arousal in your brain. There are so many different factors that can affect these tests, like low arousal. The low arousal theory is not itself complete because it doesn't indicate why a person turns to crime rather than adventure. Like, how if you get, obviously, if you have a lot of brain activity going on, you're doing something either fun or, like, getting your heart rate pumped, which allows you to make your fingers sweat. And it shows that low arousal doesn't make it sweat. So, again, like you're used with your heart rate, it's not really a good test. None of these apparently are good tests. Another test done that won't work again is your brain anatomy and its function, and they do PE tests, what stands for positron emission tomography, which shows which parts of your brain are the most active in cognitive tasks. These tests are done, and most of the activity is shown to be done in your prefrontal lobes. And if you have a malfunction in this area, it can result to causing crime. So if you have a damaged area, you're more likely to commit crime than someone who has a normal developed part. of your prefrontal lobe. Out of all this information conducted in the biological tests, the identification of a criminal disposition of an individual is likely to be poor. Even with a set of biological measures, identification can be improved, but it will never be perfect because these tests are so hard to test biologically because there's so many factors that whether the person can commit crime or if they're likely to because of their different heart rates and blood levels and everything. So it's really hard to conduct these without having a success or failure. And they say that biological tests can predict criminal disposition about the same chance as they can predict why a person commits crime in an individual's environmental circumstances. So what they're saying is that the person has the same chance of committing a crime because of their biological levels and stuff as they do because they live in a bad neighborhood, or say. So out of all this information that they've told me, that the biggest thing that affects crime biologically is a deficient in your link to the criminal I hate when I mess up. The deficient that is linked to the crime biologically appears to be impaired functioning in your prefrontal lobe. So if you have a damaged prefrontal lobe, they're going to say you commit crime. I don't know if it's true, but that's what they say. Like all these tests, they need to have more information and they need to be proven and done more tests. Have a nice day.